What's up, football fanatics? You already know what time it is. This is your home for the real, unfiltered truth about everything happening with the Cleveland Browns and the NFL. Before we dive into this absolutely insane story about Shedeur Sanders lighting up the Pro Bowl and showing the entire football world exactly why he's about to be the Cleveland Browns franchise quarterback, I need your help right now. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without you. If you're tired of boring, generic NFL coverage and want the raw, passionate analysis that mainstream media won't give you, smash that subscribe button right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when we drop these game-changing videos. Trust me, after you see what Shedeur did in San Francisco and hear what Andrew Berry revealed about the Browns' master plan, you're going to want to be first in line for every single upload. Now let's get into this absolute madness. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats because what just went down at the Pro Bowl in San Francisco has Cleveland Browns fans absolutely losing their minds. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback everyone's been debating about, the player who's been at the center of every Browns conversation for months, just put on an absolute clinic at Pro Bowl week, and I'm telling you right now, after watching what he did out there, there should be zero debate about who the Browns' QB1 is going to be next season. This young man looked absolutely sensational, and the best part, he was doing it with elite NFL wide receivers, giving us a glimpse of what could be coming to Cleveland very, very soon. Let me paint the picture for you because this wasn't just some casual flag football game where nobody was trying. This was Shedeur Sanders standing in the pocket, going through his progressions, waiting for receivers to get open, and then delivering absolute dimes all over the field. We're talking laser-accurate throws, perfect ball placement, the kind of quarterback play that makes defenses look silly and makes offensive coordinators' jobs easy. And he was doing this against some of the best defensive players in the NFL, even if it was flag football. Now, before we get too deep into the breakdown, let me address something. I know some people felt a certain way about the Pro Bowl being flag football instead of the traditional tackle game. I get it. I understand the nostalgia for the old format. But you know what? This year's Pro Bowl was actually entertaining. It was engaging. It was fun to watch. And most importantly, it gave us an opportunity to see Shedeur Sanders in action with NFL caliber talent around him. The NFL even had a camera following Shedeur around, bringing us different types of content and perspectives that we wouldn't normally get. That's smart marketing, and it gave Browns fans exactly what they needed to see. Shedeur was one of three quarterbacks representing the AFC alongside Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco. On the NFC side, Jalen Hurts was slinging it too. And I'm not going to lie, Hurts looked really, really good. But what stood out to everyone watching was Shedeur's accuracy and command of the offense. Even in a 7-on-7 format, you could see his football IQ, his decision-making, his ability to read defenses and put the ball exactly where it needed to be. These aren't things you can fake or manufacture. Either you have it or you don't, and Shedeur Sanders absolutely has it. Now, there was a hilarious moment when Shiloh Sanders, Shedeur's brother, caught up with him during the Pro Bowl. Shiloh was streaming, and the conversation between the brothers was comedy gold. Shiloh was giving Shedeur a hard time about throwing an interception on the first drive, saying he's never seen Shedeur throw a pick in real life and that it must be because Shiloh wasn't there. The brotherly banter was awesome, with Shiloh joking that somebody must have put something on Shedeur, like a curse or bad juju. But Shedeur brushed it off, saying sometimes you just have to get the mistakes out of the way early, and then he snapped in the second half. And that's exactly what happened. Yes, Shedeur threw a couple of interceptions during the game, but let me tell you something important. In a flag football format with no real game planning, limited practice time, and receivers he's never thrown to before, a couple of picks mean absolutely nothing. What matters is how he responded, and he responded like a true professional. He bounced back, he made incredible throws, and he showed the mental toughness that you absolutely need to succeed at the quarterback position in the NFL. One of the coolest moments was when Shedeur connected with Denzel Ward, the Browns' all-pro cornerback who was participating in the Pro Bowl. Denzel showed up and showed out, and seeing him interact with Shedeur gave Browns fans a taste of what the chemistry could be like when these two are on the same team. There was a funny exchange where someone asked Denzel if he was intentionally holding onto his flag during a play, and Denzel said he was just thinking, Don't step on the primes. That's a reference to Coach Prime, Shedeur's father, and the respect that the Sanders family commands throughout the NFL. The NFL's social media team dropped some incredible content from the Pro Bowl, including a video of Shedeur throwing an absolute dart to Tyreek Hill. When I say dart, I mean a frozen rope, a laser beam, the kind of throw that makes receivers' jobs easy because the ball arrives exactly when and where it's supposed to. The commentators were going crazy, yelling, "Is that Breeze again?" comparing Shedeur's accuracy to Drew Brees, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history. That's not hyperbole, that's not exaggeration. That's what people were actually saying after watching Shedeur sling it. Now, let me address something that's been a topic of conversation in the media. Some analysts, including Keyshawn Johnson and others, have said that Shedeur needs more time to develop and needs to be put in the right situation to succeed. And you know what? They're absolutely right about the second part. Shedeur does need to be put in the right situation, and that's exactly what the Cleveland Browns are building for him. They have a new head coach in Todd Monken, who's a quarterback whisperer, someone who helped Lamar Jackson win MVP, someone who's developed quarterbacks at every level. They have a young, talented defense that's going to keep games close, and they're about to go into an offseason with tons of draft picks and cap space to surround Shedeur with weapons. But as for needing more time, I completely disagree. What I saw at the Pro Bowl gave me all the clarity I needed. Shedeur Sanders is ready right now to be an NFL starting quarterback. He's been playing high-level college football for years. He's been coached by his father, who's an NFL legend. He's seen every defensive scheme imaginable. And he has the arm talent, the accuracy, the decision-making, and the leadership qualities to succeed immediately. There's no reason to wait, no reason to sit him on the bench, no reason to ease him into action. This young man is ready. And Browns fans should be absolutely ecstatic about what they saw in San Francisco. Imagine Shedeur Sanders in a Cleveland Browns uniform standing in that pocket, throwing to elite weapons that the Browns are about to acquire in the draft and free agency. Imagine him connecting with whoever they bring in at wide receiver, whether that's through the draft or free agency. Imagine him working with Todd Monken, who's going to design an offense specifically tailored to Shedeur's strengths. The potential is unlimited, and what we saw at the Pro Bowl was just a small sample of what's coming. Now, while Shedeur was balling out in San Francisco, there were some major developments happening back in Cleveland. Todd Monken officially put pen to paper, making his hiring as head coach official. The Browns released photos of Monken signing his contract, and let me tell you, he looked humble, happy, and most importantly, confident. Confidence is everything to me. If you're confident in what you're doing, if you're authentically yourself, if you don't have to copy anybody else, that's when you can be truly great. And Todd Monken exudes that kind of confidence. The photos that came out showed Monken looking comfortable and ready for the challenge. This isn't someone who's intimidated by the pressure or scared of the expectations. This is a coach who's worked with Kirby Smart, who's worked with John Harbaugh, who's developed Lamar Jackson into an MVP, who's won national championships at Georgia. He's seen the highest levels of success, and now he's bringing all that knowledge and experience to Cleveland. But the real fireworks came during Andrew Berry's press conference, where the Browns' general manager laid out the organization's entire philosophy and revealed some massive information about how they're approaching this offseason. This wasn't just another boring GM press conference where they give generic answers and avoid saying anything substantive. This was Andrew Berry pulling back the curtain and showing everyone exactly how the Browns are operating and what their plan is moving forward. Berry started by explaining their evaluation process for hiring Todd Monken, and the level of detail and thoroughness was incredible. He compared hiring a head coach to hiring a CEO or COO in the business world, which makes perfect sense. This is a decision that's going to cost $50 to $100 million on the hire alone, plus another $75 million on the coaching staff, plus the impact that coach has on the entire organization. You can't just wing that kind of decision. You have to be methodical, thorough, and strategic. The Browns started with about 50 potential candidates, narrowed it down to 23, and then ultimately submitted official requests to interview 8 external candidates. Before they even got to the interview stage, they had done extensive research on each person to make sure they matched what the Browns needed at this specific point in their organizational life cycle. This wasn't just throwing names against the wall and seeing what stuck. This was a carefully planned, deliberately executed search process. Barry explained that they were looking for 4 specific attributes in their head coach. First, global intelligence, which isn't just cognitive ability or IQ, but also emotional intelligence and football acumen. Second, CEO leadership, someone who can function at 30,000 feet with big picture strategy, but also get down into the tactical details when needed. Third, a demonstrated track record of innovation, someone who's pushed boundaries and found new ways to succeed. And fourth, collaboration, because in the modern NFL, the head coach touches so many different areas of football operations that they have to be able to work effectively with everyone. To assess these characteristics, the Browns looked at performance track records throughout each candidate's career, conducted numerous reference calls with people who had worked directly with the candidates at every stop, administered testing and work samples, and obviously conducted in-depth interviews. When they combined all that information, Todd Monken stood head and shoulders above everyone else. That's not just Barry's opinion, that's what the data and evaluation process showed. Barry went into detail about what makes Monken so unique and special. He's had high-level, innovative, adaptable offenses at both the pro and college level. It didn't matter what personnel he had, didn't matter who his quarterback was, didn't matter what scheme he inherited, he always found ways to have productive, successful units. That's not luck, that's coaching excellence, that's someone who knows how to maximize talent and put players in positions to succeed. Everyone they talked to about Monken emphasized how strong he is at working with and developing young players, which is absolutely crucial given how young the Browns roster is going to be. Barry said the beauty of Monken's background is that he has experience in both pro and college football, and that translates directly to how he leads and grows young talent. He knows how to teach, he knows how to communicate, he knows how to meet players where they are and help them reach their potential. The mentors Monken has worked for, Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh, are arguably the best coaches in college and pro football right now. Smart has won multiple national championships at Georgia with dominant physical football. Harbaugh has consistently had the Ravens as one of the best organizations in the NFL with a strong culture and winning tradition. The lessons Monken learned from those 2 coaching giants are invaluable, and he's bringing all of that to Cleveland. And perhaps most importantly, Monken understands what the head coaching job actually requires. His time at Southern Miss, where he took over a program at its absolute rock bottom and turned it around with minimal resources, proves he has the leadership, gumption, and resourcefulness to succeed at any level. He's not some coordinator who's never had to manage an entire organization before. He's been in the trenches, he knows how hard it is, and he's proven he can build something from nothing. Now here's where things get really interesting. Barry revealed some crucial information about the Browns' roster situation and how they're approaching this offseason. He said they're projecting to have one of the youngest rosters in the entire NFL next season, if not the youngest. Why? Because they have 10 draft picks, with 8 in the top 150 selections. That's an insane amount of draft capital. They're going to be adding a ton of young talent through the draft. But it's not just about being young for the sake of being young. Barry explained that they already have the 8th youngest defense in the NFL in terms of experience, and they feel really good about that unit at all 3 levels. The defense is set with young, talented players who are only going to get better. But on offense, they're envisioning significant turnover over the next several months. That's Barry's way of saying the offense is about to look completely different. Think about what that means. The Browns are going to be aggressive in overhauling their offensive roster. They're going to add weapons through the draft. They're going to be active in free agency. They're going to give Todd Monken and whoever their quarterback is the tools they need to succeed. This isn't a team that's going to sit back and hope things magically improve. They have a plan, they have the resources to execute that plan, and they're going to attack this offseason with purpose and aggression. When asked directly about the quarterback position, Barry gave a really interesting answer. He said they go into every offseason as if they have an expansion team, especially at quarterback, which is the most important position in sports. They're always going to do research on what opportunities are available in the veteran market and the draft market. They have to hire their coaching staff first, then they'll pick up the internal assessments with their own roster. But quarterback is no different than any other position in terms of exploring all options. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us the Browns are not married to Deshaun Watson as their only option. They're going to explore every possibility, and if that means drafting Shedeur Sanders, they're absolutely going to consider it. Barry even revealed that one of their assessment questions during the coaching search involved asking candidates how they would develop Shedeur Sanders specifically. They used Shedeur as an example of a young quarterback archetype to see how coaching candidates thought about player development. That's not a coincidence. That's the Browns doing their homework on a player they're clearly very interested in. Barry also addressed the Jim Schwartz situation, and his answer was telling. When asked if Schwartz could come back as defensive coordinator, Barry basically punted, saying there will be a time for that conversation, but today was Todd Monken's day. That's politicians speak, for we're not ready to announce anything yet, but things are still fluid. My read on the situation is that Schwartz is probably gone, whether by his own choice or by mutual decision, but they're not ready to make it official yet. One reporter asked a really pointed question about whether there was disagreement between Barry and Jimmy Haslam about which coach to hire, specifically mentioning rumors that Barry wanted someone else while Haslam wanted Monken. Barry shut that down hard. He said very respectfully that there's an underlying and stereotypical assumption for why people would say that, and he thinks it's completely unfair. That's Barry's way of calling out the media for making assumptions based on stereotypes rather than facts. The Browns were unified in their decision to hire Monken, and any reports suggesting otherwise were completely false. Barry also addressed the Myles Garrett situation, which has been a hot topic since Myles posted that cryptic Instagram message after the season. Barry said they kept Myles informed throughout the coaching search process, and Myles actually knew about Monken being hired before the media did. He said Myles is a great team player, and he's not worried about Myles' reaction at all. That should put to rest any concerns about Myles wanting out or being unhappy with the direction of the franchise. When asked about what he learned from his first experience leading a head coaching search as a GM, Barry said it was pretty similar to searches he'd been part of at previous organizations. But he emphasized something really important. He said the NFL coaching community is in really, really good shape, and there are a lot of talented, quality coaches in the league if people take the time to actually look. The narrative that there aren't any big-name candidates available is false. There are excellent coaches out there, and the Browns did their homework to find the right one for their specific situation. Barry also pushed back on the timeline expectations, saying they have time to build this roster, and they're going to do it slowly, deliberately, and thoughtfully. They're not going to panic. They're not going to make desperate moves. They're going to be patient and strategic. They believe in being process-oriented, and if they have a good process, it will lead to good results. That's the right mentality. You can't build a championship roster overnight, but you can make smart decisions consistently over time that compound into something special. One of the most interesting parts of Barry's press conference was when he talked about how Todd Monken has evolved as a coach over the years. He said Monken was one of the early air raid coordinators in college, running shotgun spread offenses with up-tempo pace. Then he went to Tampa Bay and adapted to a completely different system with heavy play action. At Georgia, he blended multiple philosophies. But the most impressive evolution came in Baltimore. In Monken's first year with the Ravens, they were largely a passing offense designed to help Lamar Jackson take another step as a passer, and Lamar won his second MVP with one of the greatest passing seasons in NFL history. Then they signed Derrick Henry, and in year 2, they completely changed their approach to be much more run-heavy and power-based, and they had another phenomenal offensive season. To see that level of adaptation in just a single year, adjusting to the strengths of the personnel, that's incredibly impressive and shows how flexible and creative Monken can be. Barry was also asked about Monken's personality and whether that's an asset as a coach. Barry gave a great answer, saying people and players appreciate coaches who are authentic. Everyone comes in different packaging, and all you want people to do is be themselves. If Monken can be himself, he's incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly credible, and incredibly funny. People will respect that authenticity, and it will help him connect with players in a meaningful way. So let's bring this all together because there's a clear picture emerging of where the Cleveland Browns are headed. They just hired an elite offensive mind in Todd Monken, who has a proven track record of developing quarterbacks and adapting his scheme to maximize personnel. They have a young, talented defense that's only going to get better. They're about to have one of the youngest rosters in the NFL with massive draft capital and cap flexibility. And they're clearly very interested in Shedeur Sanders as their quarterback of the future. Everything we saw at the Pro Bowl supports the idea that Shedeur is ready to be an NFL starter right now. His accuracy was on full display, throwing darts all over the field. His decision-making was solid, going through progressions and finding the open receiver. His leadership and confidence were evident in how he commanded the offense. And perhaps most importantly, he showed the mental toughness to bounce back from early mistakes and finish strong. The Browns are in a perfect position to draft Shedeur and set him up for success. They're going to surround him with weapons through the draft and free agency. They're going to give him a head coach who specializes in developing quarterbacks. They're going to give him a defense that can keep games close and take pressure off the offense. And they're going to give him the time and resources to become the franchise quarterback this city has been desperately searching for.